Greetings. We are reconvening from our closed session recess. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, welcome to this regular board meeting of December 13, 2022. Members of the public, please submit your public comment as follows. You may raise your virtual hand in Zoom to request to speak and offer comment in real time. In-person public commenters will be allowed entry 3 speakers at a time in the boardroom. Upon conclusion of a speaker's public comment on the agenda item, the speaker must exit the boardroom. You may also submit your public comment online by accessing the link to the form on the district's homepage at ESUHSD.org or the link on the agenda. Please reference the agenda item number in your written comment and limit your written comments to no more than 1,000 characters in length. Public comment submitted online will be read into the record. Please note that all meetings are recorded. All regular and special meetings of the Board of Trustees and board study sessions are streamed live on meeting nights and are also available for viewing the day after the meeting by accessing the district's YouTube channel listed on the district's webpage at ESUHSD.org under the Quick Links section. The board is not able to respond to items that are not on the agenda or any personnel-related issues. Your comment will be read into the record and will be directed to the superintendent and/or the appropriate staff member for response. Interpretation of this meeting in Spanish and Vietnamese can be heard by accessing the link and following the instructions shown on the agenda of the district's website. And now for item 5 on the agenda, adoption of the agenda, an opportunity for any request for removing items or changing the order of consideration. Hearing none, I'm going to proceed then to item 6, section 6 on the agenda, which is the annual organizational meeting. And I'm going to turn the meeting over for this part to our superintendent, Mr. Glenn Vandersee.
Thank you for that, current board president, for that. And we're going to begin the process of definitely our annual organization meeting. And we're going to start with item 6.01. While this is one agenda item, we will take 3 different motions for the nomination and election of board officers. And the first position that we're looking for a motion for is that of president.
Yes, I'm pleased to have the privilege of nominating board member Lorena Chavez for the position of board president.
Second.
First, so moved by Manuel Herrera, second by Von Lay. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Like I said, current president.
Wait,
Very
don't we
good.
have to-
We can, yes, we could. Lee, my apologies for not including you first.
Aye.
Very good. Is there a motion for the vice president of the board?
I move for Patty Cortese.
Moved by Lorena Chavez, seconded by Brian Doe, trustee Doe. Any discussion? All those in favor? Excuse me, Lee, how do you vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Now nominations for the position of clerk.
Like to
Nominate for
nominate
Brian
Brian
Doe.
Can we have one motion, please?
Did you go?
Nominate Brian.
Oh,
Brian who?
Brian Doe.
Okay, for the record, let's have the name.
As I nominate Brian Doe as the clerk.
Is there a second to that?
a second.
Patty Cortese, second. Any discussion? All those in favor of Brian Doe as clerk? Lee,
Aye.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. We'll now move on to 6.02, the nomination and appointment of two board members to the board's standing audit committee. Two board members, one in the role of chairperson, one as vice chair.
I nominate chairperson is Brian Doe.
Second.
Brian, do you want it?
Motion by Von Lay, second by Lorena
Will be my
Cortez.
honor.
All those, Lee, how do you vote in terms of chairperson as Brian Doe for the board standing audit committee?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Nominations for the vice chair?
Nominate
Nominate
Patty.
Van Lay.
Second.
You want to do it?
Oh, that was the motion?
Probably would get the student governing board.
What?
I would like to join the student governing board.
Okay.
So would you take advice?
It doesn't mean that if you do one, you can't do the other.
I think Lorena tried.
So
Accept vice chairperson of the audit committee.
Yes.
All right, so so who moved, can I get who was the first motion there?
I mean, board president Chavez moved and I seconded.
Okay, for the vice chair position of the board standing audit committee, Lee, how do you vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
I
Thank you very much for that. 6.03, nomination and appointment of two board members as board liaison to the student governing board.
For Patty Cortese for chair, board member.
What? That's the one that you asked to be on, didn't you?
Well, but there's two positions.
One is alternate.
one alternate. Patty,
That's not the
you've
same.
done last time, right?
I have. Yeah.
Could
Right.
I?
Do you want to?
I want to
If you have a burning desire, I say.
Burning
you can
desire.
have it, Yes.
Let's not. let's
I
not-
I will modify my motion then. Board trustee Lay to be the liaison.
All right, we have a motion for Von Lay. Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Any discussion? Leanne, how do you vote for Von Lay, board member for the student governing board?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Alternate board member for the student governing board.
Nominate trustee Patty Cortese.
Second.
Any discussion? Lee, how do you vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This is unanimously. Nomination and election of an alternate representative to the Metro Ed Governing Board. This is a one-year term. This is the alternate representative position.
Manuel, this is you.
Actually, I'm in the middle of a two-year term, so this is for an alternate.
I love to be the alternate if that's okay with you, and then should someday learn from you and gradually move up.
I'll nominate trustee Brian Doe.
Sorry.
As the alternate, right? Yeah.
Is there a second?
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. I was not aware of that.
No, that's okay.
Chivang?
Let's Brian has that opportunity to learn from Metro.
So then let's proceed with the vote.
We'll need us. Are you seconding the motion then for Brian Doe to serve as the alternate?
Ms.
I'll
Lake can
second.
second.
You
it.
did,
I'm
Von Lay
second.
did. Thank you.
My apologies. Was not aware. Is there anything else you want?
So let's make this clear. We have a motion for Brian Doe to be for the alternate by Patty Cortese and a second by Von Lay. Lee, how do you vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, 6.05, nomination of one member of the Board of Trustees to vote in the election of the Santa Clara County Committee on School District Organization. This is a one-year term.
Nominate, Bo Herrera. Meetings, anything at all.
We just need to have someone at the ready in case an issue ever comes up. Who's,
Nominate for Bo Herrera. Herrera for.
I'm sorry, who was the first and who seconded? I'm sorry. Lorena made an original. I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that. Did you say that? I heard Von Lay.
I thought I nominate, Board Member Herrera.
Okay, so first by Von Lay, second by Brian Doe, for Manuel.
We didn't rehearse on this.
Yeah. No doubt. Any discussion? I hope we've had that. Student Representative Penny, how do you vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're halfway through. Let's hold it together, my friends. Nomination and election of representative to the Santa Clara County School Boards Association. This is a one-year term.
I'd like to know who's interested in this so we can nominate. Okay, so I nominate Board President Lorena Chavez.
Second.
Second was Patty Cortese. All right, Lorena Chavez for the representative for Santa Clara County School Boards Association. Lee, how do you vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimously. 6.07, nomination and election of one member to the East Side Alliance Advisory Committee. This is a one-year term.
I have a question. Does this committee actually meet?
This committee has met very infrequently, especially during COVID, but is looking to reanimate and restart. And so we'll be in discussion about how often that meets and the focus of that.
Are you interested in that, Ms.
Can we
Cortez?
nominate Patty Cortese?
Yes, I second that.
Okay, so I have a motion by Lorena Chavez, second by Manuel Herrera for Patty Cortese to serve on the East Side Alliance Advisory Committee. Lee, how do you vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, in case you missed out, this is the nomination and election of one alternate member to the East Side Alliance Advisory Committee.
Second.
Brian Doe has nominated Von Lay. Manuel Herrera has seconded. Any discussion? Okay, Von Lay, here you go. Lee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Okay, nomination and election of two members to the district's Budget Advisory Committee. I just want to make sure that you're aware that the next item is 610, which is a nomination and election of one alternate member of the district's Budget Advisory Committee. So let's start with 609, nomination election of two members to the district's Budget Advisory Committee.
Is anyone interested in this? Good, I nominate Member Doe.
A second.
Okay, moved by Manuel Herrera, second by Patty Cortese.
Mhm.
Correct.
Do it, we'll do one at a time or two at a time?
Let's do this one first. Lee, how do you vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, we're now looking for a second member of the District Advisory Committee.
Who else is interested?
Yeah,
'Cause-
who else is interested? Are you guys interested?
Okay, nominate Patty Cortese as the second member.
All right, that's Manuel Herrera moving, and then is there a second motion?
Second.
Okay, Von Lang. Discussion. Lee Henny, how do you vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. And now it's for our nomination and election of one alternate member to the district's Budget Advisory Committee.
Nominate Lorena Chavez as the alternate.
Manuel Rivera motion.
Second,
Patty Cortez, second for Lorena Chavez. Any discussion? Lee, how do you vote?
aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. 611, appointment of board secretary.
And I would like to nominate our superintendent. I believe that's the traditional designation here.
Am I allowed to say no, or is this just the
Not
job?
allowed.
Okay, very good. All right, Manuel Herrera, you were moved. Who seconded?
Brian.
Okay, Brian Doe. Okay, Lee, here we are sealing my fate. How do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. My friends, I think we have just completed a
Oh,
peaceful
my
trend.
goodness. Okay, rotation. We're going to do a little musical chairs here.
Yes.
You know.
All right,
How do you say?
I might as well just stay here.
Thursday.
we'll take a short break as we move chairs and celebrate a peaceful transition of power. Goodbye, my friend.
Yes. Goody. This is where I like to see. Thank you. That's nice. I'm gonna sign him at the end of the meeting. Huh? None of that is mine, I don't think.
All right. So getting back to our agenda, we are now in item 8.01, National Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge. We have a second place winner. Is Abhinav Gorapati from Silver Creek here.
So Abhinav Gorapati is joining us via Zoom. We're getting him moved over to be a panelist
Wonderful.
so we can hear from Abhinav, which would be fantastic. Feel free to check if you're looking at the wall or if you're looking at home. Abhinav Gorapati of Silver Creek High School is a second place winner at the National Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge. And that's from the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. They was their 17th annual competition. And it was in New York City on October 13. There was about 32 different innovative business ideas that were brought forward. Abhinav brought their idea and won second place in this nationwide contest and took home $2,500 to start the business CredX, which is being developed as an online educational platform that encourages financial literacy in teens through engaging lessons. Pretty great, necessary things, right? So Abhinav was one of 40 students from across the nation competing to win the 10,000, bringing home $2,500. No small feat, absolutely not, right? And seed money and a mentorship session with the People Shark, Damon John. And so we'd like to just congratulate as a district, Silver Creek High School and Abhinav Gorapati. And if you've joined us as a panelist, we'd love to first share some love and a round of applause for sure. And then would love to invite Abhinav to speak if they'd like to say some words.
Can you
Abhinav,
hear
are you
me?
there?
Hi, I'm here.
Hey, fantastic. Congratulations. We all here in the boardroom are thrilled for you and super proud of your efforts. And I'm wondering if you could just take a minute or two to tell us what generated this interest, how'd you do it, and what's next?
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I've always been passionate about entrepreneurship and business, especially from a young age. And I've always been doing different competitions, starting things here and there. And so this last year, I was taking Introduction to Business from my school, and I got the chance to compete in Nifty's Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge. And I ended up working or spending a lot of time with my teacher, Mr. Butler, really developing this idea and coming up with a solid business plan. And eventually I made it up all the way to the national level in New York, and I got to meet a lot of cool people. I did win quite a bit of money, and it was a really fun experience overall. And yeah, it feels really great, to actually get that experience. And I'm definitely proud of where I am. So, yeah.
Well, thanks so much. So we don't have $2,500 for you, but we do have a beautiful certificate to honor the work, right? And absolutely. And I want to thank you so much for just naming those people that you were working side by side and working with you in their mentor or advisory role as your teacher and staff around you. And thanks to all of them and to you and your family, and just really looking forward to what you do next. And we were wanting to recognize you last month, and I know some things happened. So thanks for being here tonight. You've made us all proud, and congratulations.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have any board comment?
Just way to go. Keep going.
Congratulations.
The next Sharks.
Lee, anything? We're good? Awesome. Well, congratulations again. We are so very proud of you. Keep up the good work. All right. So that is item 8.01. Now, we will be moving to item 9.01. Lee, this is you.
So we had a meeting last Monday on the 12th, and during that meeting, we discussed restroom maintenance and availability, Chromebook and technology issues and availability, especially with the upcoming AP exam, and also having a student wellness and student rights resource page on each of the school sites, individual websites, as well as the ESUHSD website. For that page, a group of students from SGB will compile a list of all the different resources and links we'd like to be on those pages, and then send that to Mr. Nguyen before the next SGB meeting. We also met on the 5th with Ms. Chow and Ms. Wheeler to discuss the development of ESUHSD's sexual health education curriculum and discuss the pre-existing curricula that may be used, such as Be Real, Be Ready, and Teen Talk. And that's it.
Thank you, Lee. Great. Now we are going to item 10.01. So the superintendent and our board members may request that any items be considered, discussed, and acted out of order. Is there anything that we would like to move to a different order on the agenda?
Administration has no request to do so.
Great. 10.01. Now 10.02, presentation, discussion, or action to receive and approve the first interim financial report for fiscal year 22-23. Ms. Hanju?
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? Great. Thank you very much, Superintendent Vandersee. So thank you, President Chavez. Can I be the first to say President Chavez? And Superintendent Vandersee, members of the board, thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about the 2022-23 first interim. And so Superintendent Vandersee is driving this evening. We're ready to go. Awesome. So I would be remiss in indicating really what our vision and our mission is. And as we look at in our classrooms throughout the district, we empower our scholars to thrive in a global society through preparation of college and career readiness. We create safe learning environments to inspire critical thinking, problem solving, and innovation. And that leads us to our equitable communities. And so we do all of this through a lens. So whether we are in the classroom or we are in the district office, we are supporting in our classrooms our scholars to ensure that we are doing that through that equitable communities and meeting the commitments that we have. And we do that through our alignment of our resources to support our staff and our scholars.
Can I just say, I think
Yes.
you might be the first chief business officer that referenced equitable communities in your presentation. So awesome. Thank you
you.
very much for that.
We're trying to bring that lens to
Perfect.
the
That's-
business
that's-
division. Yes, thank you. So as we move into our budget cycle, and I know that this is something that you've seen in the past, we have now moved down and we are in December. And so we are looking at our first interim report for this fiscal year of 2022-23. Just as a reminder, although we are in one fiscal year, we are looking at 3 different years, either with reports or requirements that we must bring to the board or submit to the state. And so this is just to give you a look at where we are right now. And so as an overview, what we're doing with our first interim report is looking at any updates to our budget since the last time that you saw this, which would have been at your 45-day. So any changes, adjustments in the budget. In addition to that, looking at we also look at our transactions that have occurred. And this is for the period July 1st through October 31st. And so your financial transactions include any revenues coming in, going out as your expenditures. And so as we think about that period of time, it is a very stated period of time. And as we know with the budget, it's fluid. It changes, it evolves over time. And so we are also with this first interim report, the staff in the district has identified that we are meeting our financial obligations in the current year and 2 subsequent years. And so in meeting that statutorily, we have identified a positive certification for our first interim. And so this is for current in 2 years. So that takes us through the 2024-25 school year. So what staff is requesting this evening is for your approval on the first interim report, and we'll go through a few more items. So some of the highlights, again, looking back to those changes that have occurred since the last time that you heard about the budget. And so that was at your 45-day revision. We've done what since that time? We've closed the books for the 2021-22 fiscal year. So there have been some updates to the budget related to any carryovers that come from that fiscal year over into the 22-23 year, and any changes and updates that we may have regarding any enacted items from the state budget. And so there are 2 grants that have come through. Is a Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, which is a 3-year grant. That's a one-time monies for 3 years. And that takes us through the 2027-28 school year. The Arts, Music and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant, that is also one-time monies. And that takes us through the 25-26 school year. And you can see here that the dollar amounts for each of those 23.1. And again, that's not each year, that's that's in total for 3 years. And the block grant of 13.2, again, one amount for those years covering through the 25-26 year. So now we're going to move into some of the charts. So as we look at the general fund, and in this particular chart, we're looking at overall high level amounts. We've broken it out by unrestricted and restricted. And we can see that overall, we are increasing our revenues over expenditures to 26.6 million. But it's broken out between unrestricted and restricted. So we see that on our unrestricted side, we have a small budget imbalance of 1.6 million. So the bulk of the 26.6 million really resides in the restricted portion of our budget at 28.2 increase. It leaves us with a projected ending fund balance for June 30, 2023 of 92.4. Also in there, I would just note that that 92.4 does include the 31.2 million that was set aside as a commitment by the board for fiscal stability, and also that 3%, which is our statutory requirement for economic uncertainty. Great, thank you. So now we are looking again, we're looking back to the last time that you saw the budget, which was your 45-day revision. So we can see where we were. We're going to look at revenues, and then we'll look at expenditures. And so here we're showing our revised budget, and just note that in each of these columns, it's a combined number. So it's your combined unrestricted and restricted for each of those columns. So we have our revenues coming in at 391 million at your 45-day. Now that we look at first interim, it's dropped slightly to 388 million. And so that's almost a $3 million drop. And that includes some of the things that we have identified here, some adjustments to any changes that occurred at the enacted budget, which was after you had adopted your budget in June. So there was a small adjustment there. We also saw the federal revenues. So as we are moving moving away from COVID, dare I say moving away from COVID, that it's our funding that we've been receiving, that one-time funding is starting to end exhausting its lifetime. And so those dollars are starting to reduce. We are also seeing some state revenues that have had adjustments to the allocations, and that could be because we have changes in our average daily attendance that may impact that. And sometimes as the state looks back at some of those allocations, they make some small adjustments. So that's and we also have carryover in there as well. And in the local, that adjustment had to do with rentals, leases, and some of the other adjustments include E-rate, which is something that we did not have previously. So those are some of the changes that you see, bringing us down slightly by that 3 million over the period 45-day versus your first interim. As we look at our expenses are, if we look at the bottom line again, at 45 days, we had 357 million, almost 358. And we are now increasing by about 4 million to 362 million. And so some of those things that we're seeing reductions in the salary lines. And that really is, I'm going to say, a shoring up for any of those positions that have not been filled at the beginning of the year. So we're doing some shoring up of some of those positions. And the benefits are associated with those changes that you're seeing in the salaries. And so we're seeing some reductions there as well. As I mentioned, there are some carryovers in some of those, some of the budgets that came over from 21-22. And so you're seeing some of those carryover balances coming in to the books and supplies. And then as we look at our services and operating, there's an increase of 2.9. Again, contracted services adjustments. In particular, looking at our E-rate that I mentioned, we got revenues coming in. We have expenses associated with that with the E-rate as well. In addition to that, some increases in special education. And then a small increase in estimate the other outgo and debt service.
Question.
Yes.
Could you remind me what E-rate is?
Oh, I'm so sorry. So E-rate is a federal program that provides what they call category 2 as it relates to technology. And so the technology, it's not the things that it's not our computers, but it's the things that we can't see. So it's infrastructure, wiring, switches. Those are the kinds of things that you would see that can be supported by E-rate funding. And so they provide us with funding that's kind of it's a discount of like an 80-20. And so E-rate provides 80%, the district would then provide 20%. Does that help? I'm sorry. Thank you for that question. I apologize. I'm sorry. Yes. That's a federal statutory provision. Yes. Thank you for that question. Okay, so we move on to, so this is looking at our enrollment in ADA. Specifically on this chart, what we're seeing is there's a blue line that identifies the CBEDS enrollment. Are we okay? And then on the red line is our actual P2 ADA. Note. Thank you. And so the red line is showing our ADA, the average daily attendance, that you will note that it goes down pretty significantly. But also note that we have a green line that takes us between the year of 2021 and all the way through 2024, 25. And so during the last legislative session in our enacted budget, the legislature and the administration, state administration, provided a mechanism that provided support to school agencies and allowed us to actually be funded at a higher level based on our 3-year rolling average. And so that's what you're seeing, the difference between that green line and the red line that identifies where we would have been had we not had that provision and where we are with that provision. So if you look at the 2022-23 year, you can see that we would have been at 20,310, but we are actually being funded at 21,293. So it's approximately $12 million difference there. So that's a pretty significant amount and providing that support through the enacted budget. We are very appreciative of that, particularly as a declining enrollment district. Okay, moving on to the combined multi-year projection. So this is looking at your revised budget as of the 45-day in the purple. And then we see our first interim and our 2 years out. So you can see the numbers that you've seen before. The ending balance for your revised budget was projected at 99.2. Now we are here at the first interim. It's showing almost a $7 million reduction, 6.8, takes us down to 92.4. And again, this is based on adjustments to revenues and expenditures during that period of July 1 through October 31st. Then as we go into our years 2 and 3, we can see that it's dropping down. We have a budget imbalance of 19 million, taking us to 72.4 in year 2. And then as we look in year 3, we're coming down to our 21.9. And so as we move through the years, we are looking at where we are at this point in time. Staff will be working as we move forward in this year. And as we are preparing for the budget for next year, looking at our revenues and our expenditures and looking at ensuring that we are maintaining programs and staffing as we move into the future. But this is also something that we want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence in terms of what next steps are necessary. I would like to welcome trustee Joe and trustee Cortese to the audit or the budget committee. We will be having our meetings coming up very shortly, so we look forward to working with you on that. Okay, state budget update. So one of the things that was just passed in November was Proposition 28. Proposition 28 is the Art Education Funding Initiative. And funding for this will not come in until next year. And the estimate at this point in time is 3.1. And so that is something that will be built in as we move forward in our budget. And then early signs of an economic downturn have been reported. We're hearing it, it's in the news. So that's not new news for us, but we know that things are changing. Again, we were supported by both federal and state one-time funding over the last 2.5, 3 years. And so that's starting to change. And we're seeing some changes in the economic environment. So we continue to use one-time dollars to extend that budget imbalance as we go into the next 3 years, as we have seen in our multi-year projection, as we look to that year 3. So we are meeting our requirements as we look in year 3, but we want to ensure again that we're able to maintain programs and staffing as we move forward.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yes.
So
Mhm.
right now you spoke to the economic downturn and then you spoke to one-time funds. Is that like just making sure that we're clear, like these are one-time funds, they cannot be guaranteed moving forward, especially given the economic environment? Is that?
Well, so there is always a chance when we're seeing the trends for economics going down that that reaction to that, we tend to be a little reactionary. And so when the state is going, so we'll know more next month in January when the governor provides their original, the initial proposed budget for the 23-24 year. We'll see kind of, not exactly because we won't know that until June, but we will see some signs of what's happening in terms of COLA for education and what kinds of additional funding we may or may not receive. We've kind of seen a trend that started going back towards categorical programs. We've seen that pots of money that have accountability and restrictions attached to it. And one-time monies. I mean, that's what we've seen over the last 3 years. And as we know, one-time monies being spent on one-time expenditures. And so we need to be cognizant of that as we move forward. Okay, so our next steps, again, as I just mentioned, our governor's budget proposal in January. You will also what I call the report card for the district, and you will be presented with and accepting the audit for both the financial audit as well as the bond audit in January. And then in March, you will have the second interim report that will come up, and that will be through the period January 31st. And then, of course, we will start with our budget development in January. So. Thank you. Thank you for your questions.
Of course, thank you. Do you want to stay there just in case there are any comments or questions from the board? No comment?
I have both comment and questions.
Great.
First of all, I love the energies. I don't know if I don't think you even need the microphone. However, I do have some questions. I
Yes,
presume that both the block grant dollar amount are included in the estimate for the 99 or $92 million that we look at.
it's included in the state funding.
Right.
I think it's the 63.
We are not, even
Yes.
though it's for 3 years for the first grant and 2 years for the second grant, we are not required to spend the exact equal amount per year. Am I correct? It is up to the administration to determine how, as long as within that time frame.
So I know that I don't want to get ahead on stepping on toes here, but we do have a presentation that's coming up related to the arts. So I'm gonna kind of defer to the program because it will tell you a little bit more about.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank
I appreciate the energies and the clarity.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Lee, anything from you? No? Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Huntoon.
I'll tell you how many times I've squelched my acting like I was chairing this meeting. Oh, no, that's not mine anymore.
I got the gavel right now, Manuel. I got the
Yes, you
gavel.
do. Of
Don't
course.
worry, I'm taking good care of it. Okay, all right, let's move on to okay, so there are no action items under section 11, section 12. So do we have any public comment? We do.
Yes.
Okay,
Did you take
It
action
has to
on
be
10.02?
We need to take action to receive it. No, that's okay.
okay, my
Move for
apologies.
approval of the
Let's go
interim
back.
report.
So
Second,
we're talking about item 10.02.
10.02 to take action to approve the
Approve.
first interim
Mhm.
financial report.
Great. So it was moved by trustee Herrera, seconded by trustee Cortezi,
Yes,
that right?
Vice President Cortez.
Vice President Cortezi. All in favor, say aye. Oh, sorry, Lee, how do you vote? Aye. All right, great. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. Great. Okay, so now, item, section number 12. Public comment? Go ahead, Mary.
Public comment online submitted by FEFAM. Staff member. My name is FEFAM. I am a teacher at Evergreen Valley High School. My colleagues and I are deeply concerned about the Vietnamese language program in the district. These are our top concerns. 1, the consultant that was hired by the district to write the curriculum guide was not consulted with the Vietnamese teachers. 2, materials in the curriculum guide developed by the consultant and the unit packets created by the district teachers for the non-native program do not reflect the values of the Vietnamese American community and experiences. 3, heritage textbooks have not been updated in more than 10 years. Non-native curriculum is lacking a textbook with sufficient materials. We request the board to take immediate action to help us achieve these goals. 1, update heritage textbooks. 2, using heritage materials as a guide and in-house expertise to create non-native textbooks materials. 3, all textbooks and materials need to reflect the Vietnamese American values and experiences. Public comment from Xuan Nguyen, staff member. I completely agree with FEFAM. I don't understand how we can serve our students using outdated books or implementing a curriculum that is geared towards either elementary or college students. Our students are passionate about learning the Vietnamese language and culture, but cannot do so without proper study materials. We need your support. Thank you. Public comment from Julio Pardo, listed as staff member. I would like to congratulate the 3 incumbents on retaining their positions on our district board. We have worked together for several years to resolve issues for the district. I appreciate you all listening and working to help on issues we in the classified ranks have had. I look forward to our continued positive relationship over the next 2 years. Have a restful and wonderful holiday break for yourselves and with your families. Be ready to hit the ground running upon your return, as we will. Thank you and be safe. Public comment from Son Lu, staff member. I would like the board considering on updating the current textbooks the district is using for Vietnamese language programs. That is the end of public comment under section 12.01 for online public comment.
Thank you. And there's no one on Zoom, correct? That has their hand raised. I don't see anyone, but superintendent can confirm. Nobody? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, that's section 12. Now we are moving on to section 13.01, presentation, information, discussion, and or action regarding update on novel coronavirus, adoption of resolution 2022-23-14. Superintendent Van Der Zee?
Yes, thank you very much. Before us tonight to take action on adopting the resolution that will allow us to continue to do the remote teleconference meetings between December 13 and January 12. So I'll be asking you to take action on that soon. Also just want to let the community know that in our county, we have seen increases in influenza as well as COVID. And so just to make people make sure that, remember, vaccination really helps. Take care of themselves. If you're experiencing symptoms, please stay home. But also to make note that we will be distributing at our sites to our community test kits before they leave for the break. And so that our community can look for those. Those will be distributed by school. So look for the local instructions from your school to take those test materials home. So that if you are feeling like affected by something and don't want to know, is it cold? Is it influenza? Is it COVID? To make sure that you test, and we'll have those available. Other than that, we would ask that the board approve the resolution before you this evening.
I'll move to approve.
I have a motion by Vice President Cortese, a second by Trustee Doe. All in favor? Oh, Lee, hold on, Lee. Representative, Student Representative Lee.
Aye.
There you go. All in favor?
Aye.
With that said, I would like to take the time to thank the Human Resources Department, the warehouse staff, business services for making sure that we continue to have these supplies available. PPP is still equipment and masks are still available. As we enter this season, we'll make sure that all our community knows that's available. I want to thank just at the district office here, but also at the sites for counting those out, getting to all the classrooms and making sure it's distributed so that our students and families have access to them. I thank you truly.
22,000 students plus staff is no easy feat. So really appreciate it. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. So I believe we have a unanimous approval.
It was.
Great. Okay, so that's item 13.1. It's been approved. 13.02, accept statement of votes and certification of election results of Santa Clara County Registrar of Voters.
Second.
Okay, so moved by Trustee Doe, seconded by Trustee Herrera. Student Representative, how do you vote?
Aye.
Colleagues, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Okay, we have a unanimous approval, 13.02.
I have a quick question on 1302.
Yes.
So included in 1302 is Measure N. So just a quick question to the administration, when will Measure N come to the board for, like our
We're
little
drawing down and
process?
things like that. So what
For-
we'll be,
well, like we do our little formula and all that stuff, right?
yeah, so
yeah.
what we'll be doing at a meeting, now that it is passed, is that we'll get together and be developing a plan for the overall use. One, how are we going to synthesize it with our ongoing bonds? What is, since the values and direction of the coming bond, and then present to you a proposal for how allocations would be determined, and then demonstrate to you this would be the process for determining projects, and then also be able to make sure that you're clear on kind of the timeline of decision making for projects, from allocation to ideation to proposing just a project as in general, and then later to a project that's more specific in actual design, and then make sure that we walk you through as that process is followed, as we go to bid, as we go into construction. And so administration is asking for some time to figure out the economics, get the plan together, and then we'll be presenting it to you later. We have plenty of ongoing projects, both with our IT bond and also our tech bond, as well with our facilities bond, that we won't waste time, but we're not losing time, as we want to make sure that we're preparing between now and 2050 with a solid plan.
Sure. And I guess one thing that's different about this bond is that it combines technology with facilities.
That's right. As it was written in the proposal, it is an intent to make it about 85% facilities, 15% tech, and we'll be mindful of what monies we have in facilities bond and existing tech bonds as we strategize how to draw down those monies in the future, in a manner that I want to repeat that would not increase the tax rate for our taxpayers.
Great.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. All right. So we are now on section 14, 14.01, presentation, discussion, and our action regarding Arts, Music, Instructional Materials Block Grant. Assistant Superintendent Teresa Marquez, take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Vanderzee, trustees, Madam President. Teresa Marquez, Associate Superintendent for Educational Services. So tonight I'm here to present to you the required expenditure plan for your approval as part of the Arts, Music, Instructional Materials Block Grant Plan, which is state allocated funding. So I want to begin first with an overview. So as part of an Assembly Bill, in particular Assembly Bill 181, Governor Newsom approved funding specifically for the use of enhancing our standards aligned programs in arts, music, and in various other subject areas, as well as some other allowable expenses. In particular, the 5 key allowable expenses for this particular block grant are as follows. Standards aligned professional development and instructional materials for specified subject areas, which include art, music, social studies, financial literacy, media literacy, and a number of other core subject areas. Second, allowable expense is specific to obtaining professional development and instructional materials for improving school climate. So that's another aspect of what's allowed as part of this grant. A third component in terms of allowable expenses is in establishing a diverse, more culturally relevant and multilingual collection of library books across our libraries here in Eastside. A fourth allowance is for operational costs, which includes and not limited to retirement, healthcare cost increases. And then finally, continuing to allow for some expenditures in ensuring that we're able to maintain open as part of our precautionary measures towards COVID. These particular one-time funds, there is a requirement that a plan be presented to the Board of Trustees at a regular governing board meeting and have it approved in order for us to be able to move forward with the expenditures. We did receive, as Dr. Huntoon mentioned as part of her presentation, about $13.2 million. Again, I want to emphasize that these are one-time dollars that will not recur, but they can be expended and encumbered through the 2025-26 fiscal school year. So just want to give a general overview before I get into the details. Of course, as always, right, we want to look at the opportunities that are presented to us, in particular with funding and resources, and looking at how it's aligned to the work that we do as a district. And this one, I think, is in direct correlation and alignment with where we're going as a district and what our vision is. As you know, we have a promise to our community that all our students will graduate prepared for college and or career. And I think this grant funding allows for us to be able to continue to hold to that promise. We recognize that being college and career ready for our students means that they hold a certain set of skills, such as being communicators, critical thinkers, collaborators, creators, members of the community that are powered with the plan. And the expenditure plan that I present to you, I am confident that it will continue to support our work towards meeting our promise. And of course, we know that this will happen through the development and the continuing work that we do in building equitable communities where all our students are welcomed as they are. And we know this can happen across our courses, in particular in arts, music, and physical education, which you'll see are 3 of the priorities set forth as part of this expenditure plan. We recognize that part of building equitable communities is looking at the strengths and areas of growth for all our students. And we know that that takes great effort from all of our teachers and being able to ensure that they have the instructional materials and professional development to do that. That is what this grant is allowing us to be able to do. It also is allowing us to continue to look at how we as the adults positively respond to the various needs that our students bring. And more importantly, because this is specifically aligned to instructional materials and professional development in key subject areas, this will truly allow for our students to engage with tasks that are going to develop their strategic thinking so that they can be full participants in our local community as well as our global society. Part of what we try to do is to make sure that we're responding not piecemeal and fragmented, but as a system. And so when I go through and explain to you the process that we use to develop the expenditure plan, it was done through the lens of looking at it as a system. How do we ensure that we're supporting the areas that need to be supported district-wide as a system? And we do this because we want to make sure that our kids receive what each of them is that they need to be able to strive and thrive both in our district and once they leave us. And we want to ensure that the opportunities that are presented to them, especially in the arts, music, physical education, and their other core subject areas, are those that are going to allow them to thrive so that it does not matter the zip code, it does not matter what they look like, but that they actually have an opportunity to become artists, to become musicians, to become athletes, to become anything it is that they need to become and want to become. So how do we get to the expenditure plan? So when these monies first were talked about and brought forth to the various districts, we recognized that, yes, that it allowed for some flexibility within the operational costs. And you saw that Dr. Hantun has presented to you a multi-year budget that does include some of this funding to allow for us to be fiscally solvent as a school district. But I was able to ensure that I collaborated, communicated, talked to subject area coordinators so that they would work with their teachers to be able to come up with what are those needs, what are those instructional materials, what are those supplies and equipment that would really make that classroom experience one that students would be able to truly engage in and be connected, because we know that if students are connected to their coursework, they're gonna do much better. And we know that in order to do that, teachers need the instructional materials and professional development to be able to carry out that more engaging classroom. And so in particular, we did hone in on 3 of our key subject areas: visual arts, performing arts, and physical education. And when you look at these 3, they have a high demand for equipment, right? Where in a math class, you have your textbook, you may have a compass, a calculator, some items, for your daily use. In classes such as arts, visual and performing arts, as well as physical education, you need equipment. You need balls, you need tennis rackets, you need transparency tables, you need paint, you need lots of materials to be able to have that full enriching experience. Same thing with performing arts, right? You need instruments to be able to perform and learn all things music. And so the subject area coordinators, particularly in those 3 areas, worked with their fellow teachers in those areas to gather their needs for how they saw that viable enriching Art 1 class, for example. What would make an Art 1 class that enriching, engaging classroom when it comes to instructional materials, supplies, and equipment? And so just as an example, you see the art teachers really did a phenomenal detailed job. And so thank you to Autumn Jewell, who's a subject area coordinator, and also Becky Hopkins, who is the ESTA organizing chair, who also teaches art. And they really went through and together with fellow art teachers, went through each course and identify the instructional materials, supplies, and equipment that would be needed to really be able to provide this comprehensive, rigorous, engaging arts program for our students. And so they listed the various instructional materials, whether it was a consumable, whether it was something that was a stable and usable long-term equipment. And so they did this for each course. Something similar was done in physical education, where they listed for our 2 required courses, PE course 1 and PE course 2. What does that PE course 1 look like when it comes to necessary instructional materials, equipment, and supplies to be able to ensure that that course is engaging, enriching, and it's allowing us to meet the standards for that particular course. And the same thing was done for performing arts. In addition to that, we had discussions with ESTA leadership about the needs for instructional materials, especially in those high demand courses such as art and foods, right? I know there may be an argument that it's part of the assembly bill, culinary arts or foods isn't necessarily called out, but there is enough flexibility within the assembly bill that allows for us to be able to allocate funds to elective courses such as the culinary arts. And culinary arts is one of those programs that we still have at 2 of our high schools, Oak Grove and Andrew Hill. And if you don't have groceries, the experience isn't quite there, right? And so if we want to make sure that our students have that enriching, engaging, rigorous experience, we need to make sure that we provide our teachers with the instructional materials as implies that it is, that they need to be able to provide that experience. And then finally, we did have a discussion at Superintendent's Council to determine the need for funds in the area of operational costs, which my colleague, Dr. Hantun, has shared with you, the need to be able to use, which we have done in the past as a district, one-time funds to be able to extend our budget imbalance into the 3rd year.
Teresa,
Yes.
I have a quick question. you talk about the food course. I'm very interesting about that, and I know that you mentioned about Andrew Hill that they have the culinary art class. Is that only school side provide that food course, or do we explore any other site, or do we have any survey that can see the interest of the student?
So currently we have two teachers, one at Oak Grove and one at Underhill. But yeah, we can definitely explore. It is one of those courses that would allow us to look at ongoing budgets because there's a need for food, right? For groceries, ingredients to be able to provide that experience that the kids are looking for in those courses.
That's very interesting. Thank you.
And of course, when you look at, well, right, what do we get when we're putting forth the amount of money that we're putting forth in terms of outcomes and metrics. And so I always refer us back to our LCAP where we have our six goals actually, excuse me, listed with specific metrics already outlined within that. And I could tell you that the work that the subject area coordinators have done in putting this together, as well as the follow-up work that will be needed to collaborate around the access and use of the funds once they've been approved tonight, is to ensure that they're in alignment with our goals. And I can tell you that all of them are, right? Because if we're providing our students with that enriching, engaging classroom experience across our subject areas, we know that they will be college and career ready. Our graduation rates will go up. We're aware of the needs of our English language learners within these courses. We know that students that are engaged in their coursework, excuse me, are going to respond differently to behavior. They're going to be more actively engaged. We know that attendance will increase when students are engaged in their classroom experience. And we know that we can focus in on our homeless youth and providing them those experiences in the classroom that will keep them in school. So I do just want to share an example from the visual arts framework so that you can see the alignment. And essentially what it calls for here from the visual arts framework is that in order to have that comprehensive art program, we really got to look at not only the standards-based curriculum, staffing, facilities, but what are those art materials and equipment that we have to be able to truly have a comprehensive arts program. And they recognize that when we include a comprehensive arts program as part of other plans, which include our LCAP, then we know that we're preparing for offering a path for success with our students that is beyond just our core subject areas, which I know we tend to focus on. And I come to you and talk math, science, English, social studies. But here I come to you talking to you about our arts, music, physical education program, because one of my slides that I presented to you is about that whole child, and that's inclusive of that whole child. So here's a breakdown of the expenditure plan. And so for the visual arts, we've allocated a one-time allocation of $708,000. And this dollar figure was, I came up with this particular dollar figure out of those numerous spreadsheets that Autumn Jewell, along with Becky Hopkins and the fellow art teachers created. And it's way more than 708,000, which is what is needed. I just want to put it out there that I recognize that the need is much higher than what obviously I've allocated as part of this one-time allocation. But it was definitely done through collaboration with the subject area coordinators and through a process that allowed for us to really look at what does that art one class look like? What does that PE course one look like? What does the choir one class look like? What does a band course look like? And so the 708,000 was developed by me looking at each of the courses, each of the ask for those particular courses. For full transparency, some of the things that were asked were tech equipment like computers, which I removed from the allocation, given that we have tech funds to be able to support in that area. And so I then looked at those requests, looked at the number of teachers who were teaching those requests, included that as part of the calculation, and then looked at the FTE through the collaboration with Human Resources, who was able to support me in giving me the FTE for each of the various departments. I was able to come up with the formula in particular for art that would allocate $15,000 per FTE for the visual arts that would amount to the $708,000, which also would support each of those courses that were listed as part of their plan development. Similarly, the same process was followed for performing arts, which includes our drama program, our theater programs, our music programs. We have about 27.6 FTE, and about 30,380 was allocated per FTE. That brought us to the amount of 838,488. For physical education, we have 59.6 FTE, allocated at 4,000 per FTE is the amount there that you see. And again, it wasn't just done clearly through the FTE, it was done through looking at their own calculations that they had developed as part of what that course, each course looked like, that I was then able to calculate and take into consideration to make sure that they were gonna have a good amount of money to get maybe not all the items, but a good portion of the items. Yes.
So, like, for example, visual arts, you said it's 15,000 per FTE over 3 years. That's what, on average of 5,000 per year.
Yeah, if you look at it through that, so remembering that these are one-time funds, right? So there could be some large supplies or equipment purchase that may expend a good portion of that fund within 1 year, maybe 2 years. But they can be this one-time allocation can be expended and or encumbered through 25, 26.
So so this is one-time money, but this is going to supplement what the existing supply budget, is that right?
This is, yeah, completely separate from the ongoing budget allocation that gets done as part of each school site's budget allocation.
So I guess I'm a little confused about, a lot of teachers talk about having to pay for, a lot of teachers talk about bringing supplies out of their pocket, right? So I assume that this would supplant any of that. Like teachers should have sufficient now to not have to do that, right?
Yes, that's the intent but again, right, these are one-time money. So the question, and I think Dr. Huntoon surfaced Proposition 28, right, as an ongoing funding source. It's also just looking at our own budget process and how we allocate funds towards our specific subject areas where there is a higher demand for consumables, higher demand for equipment and supplies.
Okay, so Prop 28 is ongoing funding? No. Yes.
Yeah, but it doesn't start till 23, 24, as Dr.
Right,
Huntoon
but that will
mentioned.
be ongoing money. So in your presentation, you referenced that would be about 3.1 million for the upcoming school year. Okay, but that's ongoing money. And that
So
could be
your
used.
comments need to be heard by the audience, so you need to turn your microphone on, please.
So that ongoing money then can be used to augment supply budgets and things like that. Is that correct? The ongoing money from Prop 28 could be used.
I'm sorry, but
to-
for the sake of the audience, could you just repeat some of your answers to the questions asked so that people can follow this conversation?
Sure. So you want me to go back to what I just indicated?
Okay, sure, let's do that.
Yeah,
Sure.
so the Prop 28 funding starts next year, 2023, 24, and will be ongoing money. And the early estimates are 3.1.
And then is that money can be used anything for art education? So supply budgets and things like that can be
So I
augmented out of that funding?
I think, I don't want to speak to what we can use that on at this point, because we're waiting on more information from CDE in terms of what those dollars can actually be
Got it.
utilized on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for
Yeah.
the audience, like CDE means.
Oh, California Department of Ed, thank you.
Thank you. Where was I? Oh, science. We allocated 429,000. Again, when you look at the FTE breakdown, there's approximately 143 FTE. And so that accounts for about $3,000 per FTE. And then I just clumped all the other subject areas together. Again, large difference in also talking to subject area coordinators in terms of some of those ongoing courses that do require more of those consumables. Or in English, social studies, world languages, math, and some of our electives, that need for those constant consumables and supplies isn't necessarily there. And so we've allocated $530,000 there, which accounts for about $1,000 per FTE. And then you could see the culinary arts, the 2 FTE teachers that we have that have been allocated about $34,000 for instructional materials and supplies. And then when you look at the other areas or allowable expenses as part of the grant, there's a portion for improvement of school climate, which is about $674,000. The development of a more diverse, culturally relevant, and multilingual school library collection is allocated about $300,000. You could see the need for operational costs at 9.5 million. And you could see through the presentation of Dr. Huntoon that this is the one-time usage of dollars to continue for our multi-year reporting so that we are submitting a budget that is fiscally solvent. And then just a small portion into COVID-related costs, given that we have a warehouse currently, luckily, because we were very much prepared with appropriate PPE. So I allocated a minimal amount into the COVID-19 related costs.
Teresa,
Yes.
quick question. Could you elaborate operational costs? Would it include?
Yes, the operational costs can include retirement costs, benefit costs, not limited just to that. It could be salaries, basically, essentially anything that we need to be able to operate as a district.
That's take away, well, that's including on the 15 million.
Yeah, so when you total those up, that gives us 13,267,936.
If I may, is the intention to have the substantial sum of it's 9.5 million out of 13.2 million is because to provide flexibility to the district in our spending? Is that why there is that number is there, 9.5?
It's there because that is what is needed for us to be able to submit a 3-year fiscally solvent budget. That's what's presented by Dr. Huntoon. And finally, just in terms of some next steps, there's still work to be done with our subject area coordinators. The money, yes, has been allocated, but we have to work out what's the best process to be able to ensure that teachers are getting what it is that they need, right? That's not going to be dictated by me. It's going to be done in collaboration with the teachers who are the ones that are in need and have done extensive work already to identify those instructional materials and supplies and equipment that are needed. And so that's going to be led by our subject area coordinators in collaboration with the various teachers at their respective subject areas, as well as with the business department to ensure that we have a plan for how we're going to access, use the funds, and obviously the process for the purchasing of whatever items it is that are selected for purchase. And then we're going to also look at, knowing that this is one-time dollars, right? Knowing that the needs of these particular courses will continue, look at reviewing existing budget to determine if at all there's any potential for ongoing funding beyond the use of one-time money. And I mentioned again, Proposition 28, which will provide additional funding specific for arts and music. So my recommendation to the board is that the Board of Trustees approve the plan as presented. And I will take any questions.
Thank you. We have some questions. All right. So go ahead.
I believed you as associate superintendent and the superintendent saw the emails that the board was receiving regarding this item
Correct.
of the agenda. I'm understanding more things based on your presentation, but nevertheless, I want to ask you, what is your understanding and how would you characterize the requests being made to the board to postpone action tonight on this item in order to have more informed assessment of the needs and so on? What is the administration's response to those concerns communicated to the board?
Yeah, in looking through the emails that were shared with me and the superintendent, a couple of things. One, quantifying I think is important to look at the number of teachers that have expressed concern or requests for pause versus those that are in support. of the plan. But I will say that in particular, I know the one department that has high concern is the performing arts.
Is it what?
Performing arts department, which includes our theater and our music programs. In their request for equipment and supplies, their request came in at $3.6 million in terms of items that were requested. Given just the need for other departments, the need for what we had to use for operational costs to ensure that we submit a fiscally solvent budget 3 years out, that was difficult for me to be able to bring to the board, is an ask of 3.6 million for our performing arts. Not that it's not needed, not that it's not valued, but fiscally, when you look at the situation, it was very difficult for me to be able to meet all the requests that were presented. I also want to say that in terms of the performing arts, one of the samples, or for one of the and the way they did it more by sites. And so one of the school sites request includes things that aren't an allowable expense through part of this grant, such as chairs for their band room, such as acoustic shells, such as choir risers, which are big ticket items that are difficult for me to be able to find as standards aligned. I can rationalize and I can justify a whole lot. Some of those I struggled to do. And so one of the things that I did is I actually met with facilities and I said, hey, I have this request from our music performing arts. What are these things that are more facilities based that maybe we could look at either new construction if it's something that's coming up, or part of just the facilities work that we do, like the chairs, right? Is that something that we can provide through a different funding source to ensure that our students have appropriate chairs to be able to have that music experience that is needed? That is not the same as having just a regular desk in a social studies class, right? And so in looking at the request, I did pull out items that I felt were more around a different funding source, such as piping and draping, projection screen, hazer fog machines, some things that I don't even know what they are, a scrim, different items like that. And so I went and I looked, what are those actual instructional materials that would enhance that experience, such as instruments, choir robes, band uniforms. And so I tried as best as I could to allocate as much as I could in that area. And so that would be my response, that I really looked at it through the lens of that baseline experience of that choir one classroom, of that music classroom, knowing that I knew I wasn't going to be able to come close to the 3.6 million ask.
So I'm drawing an interpretation or conclusion from what you just said, that these concerns, these needs being expressed are not being discounted, or they're being acknowledged, but you're going to need to move forward on other fronts to find ways to meet the stated needs within available resources. And we're working with one-time funds. And as we get to a different discussion on the continuing funds through the proposition that passed, that gives us another opportunity to revisit these types of issues. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay, so one last question is, what is meant by we need to fund operational costs, quote unquote, and that kind of eats the lion's share of things? What does that mean, operational costs?
Oh, operational costs include, as I mentioned, retirement cost, healthcare benefit cost, salaries.
Oh. Okay. Let's see. All of that falls into program expenditures.
Yeah, and it's part of the cost of operating a district, right? And so maintaining our services, maintaining our existing programs. And so the grant, and again, I don't know what the thinking of the folks were, but I would venture and say that part of it is that they have an understanding, and you probably know this better than I do, that the state funding response for a lot of times in California has been one-time money, as opposed to actually looking at the root of the problem, which is funding education on an ongoing basis better, right? And so right? We get one-time funds, and so they include some flexibility so that districts are able to use some of the funds provided to be able to maintain fiscally solvent and so that we can pay our bills.
Well, that's legitimate, and that'll be a basis for me to continue to be very interested in following this conversation forward, because I saw a lot of validity to a number of the comments offered to the board via email, and it was starting to educate me, and I want to be educated even more. I'm going to close by saying that I think the times, pretty much the only times when I have genuinely become upset all this time that I've served on the board has been when I hear that staff are going out of pocket because they believe so strongly that it requires the basic for their be able to deliver, the program and the learning that they know needs to be given. As a system, I just think that's not excusable at all. Staff should not ever have to be working on a basis that they must go out of pocket to meet the basics of what they need to deliver in their classroom what's the total of our budget?
This year, we're looking at we have 389 or
I'm sorry, say the number again.
expenditures at 362.
362.
362 what?
362 million.
Thank you.
Mhm.
$362 million budget, and staff are having to go out of pocket for basics. And I don't understand that. And at a future agenda, I'm going to request an item for us to do a semi-annual needs assessment, needs and wants, for the staff to be able to surface to decision makers, to policymakers, where is there a lapse in our even understanding what is needed at the point of delivery, especially when it comes to items like, that people have to go out of pocket for.
Yeah, and I think this was a great way for us to already establish a process that was brought forth, not by me, by, the subject area coordinators, Becky Hopkins, who really looked at what are those that enriching, engaging Art One class look like. And so I think we have an entry into being able to have that discussion.
And it's part of the agenda item that I want to bring forward. I believe the board should receive quarterly reports on all staff members that have gone out of pocket in the previous 3 months for items they believe they needed. And we can at least be aware at the highest levels of what's going on.
Yeah, make sure you bring that up at the end when we say future agenda items so that we
Yes, I
can get
am.
it in that.
I am.
Great.
I can't tell you how upset I get about this.
We can tell. We do have a few public comments. We would like to hear from them first. Great. So we have online and in person. Let's honor the in person. Robin Edwards. Do we have a timer?
Okay, am I on? Yes. Okay, so my name is Robin Edwards. I am the I am the theater teacher at Independence High School. I'm also with the California Educators Association and the Educational Theater Association, which is the national recognition for theater teachers. So I have been aware of this funding since our national conference in October. And I believe that most of the percentages that you're getting from these emails were actually submitted by myself. It was simply dividing the number of what was proposed by Ms. Marquez by the amount. So if we take a look at the percentages, visual arts is going to get 5% of this budget, performing arts 6%, physical education 1.7. I don't need to go down this list for you. I would like to take a moment to talk about why we are actually having these funds, because I'm not sure if you're aware of this. California is the 49th out of 50 states, and we only beat West Virginia by 2 weeks to have a credential in both theater and dance. And when that happened in 2016, state legislatures started to realize that there needed to be training, there needed to be funds applied, there needed to be updated of equipment. And a series of events happened that eventually led to this art funding from the state. So this is doing a lot of writing of things that have not been happening. A lot of these those of us who've been in the arts for as long as we have, we are very well aware one-time funds disappear very quickly. So from a performing arts standpoint, seeing these large ticket items are not uncommon, and it does stand to reason why we would put something on it. For example,
15 seconds.
okay, I would love to go into this further, but one of the things I see as a big need for everyone, this is education of what we do in performing arts and why we need to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Our next speaker, Lisa Baker.
Good evening. Sorry. Good evening, board members. I have two hats, and I think I've been to the board more this year than I have in my entire 30 plus years of teaching. But as a physical education subject area coordinator, we started working on this because we've been underfunded as long as I've been in this district. And I'm just here supporting what our assistant superintendents put together, and superintendent. My people are very ecstatic, and we are already trying to figure out how to spend the money. So thank you. I hope we vote for it. I do know performing arts have their things. I don't know enough about what they're doing, but on behalf of physical education, we are really excited. So thank you.
Thank you. Mary, I believe we have online public comment. Okay.
Online public comment from staff member John Bischofberger. I'd like to begin by thanking Rebecca Hopkins, Autumn Jewell, and Mrs. Marquez for the proposed funding from the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Block Grant. Regarding how the funds will be distributed and applied, I have feedback to pass for the board. It is known how much money is needed for art classrooms per student, yet we are consistently given far less. We provided per capita information to Ms. Jewell and Ms. Hopkins at the beginning of the 22-23 school year. The budget has remained the same every year, despite the rising cost of materials. We need a system going forward that will allow teachers to declare their financial needs per capita for art programs, so funds can be distributed in a consistent and equitable fashion rather than blindly applying the same amount as last year. Budgets are more than dollars and cents. They are declarations of value. Put your money where your words are with the kids. Thank you for your time and consideration. Public comment from staff member Jessica Gutierrez. My name is Jessica Gutierrez, and I am an art teacher at James Lick High School. I'm writing to support the proposal that the board allocate $708,000 to the visual arts program for instructional materials and professional development. Our art programs are integral to our school communities and the creativity, critical thinking, and well-being of our students. Art education allows our students to develop motor skills, observation, self-expression, communication, and agency. Public comment from staff member Laura Rice. In my 21 years as an art teacher in the district, I have raised over $40,000 to purchase supplies so that I can ensure equity and opportunity for all my students, regardless of their ability to purchase their own materials. There has been an undue burden on teachers to spend their free time fundraising for school expenses, or worse, paying for school supplies out of their own pocket. Certain subjects, especially the visual arts, have suffered the worst. This year was better than some, but I still only received $5.61 per student for the year. To completely outfit a new art room with the supplies needed would cost about $40 per student. A well-established art room needs about $20 per student per year to restock the basics. Please help. Public comment from staff member Heather Dinsdale. I have worked for the district for 4 years and have raised over $7,000 to make sure that each student has the opportunity to be successful in my class despite their financial and home situation. As a new teacher, I came into the district with zero supplies for my students. I did not know as a new teacher that it would become a part-time job after work searching for ways to fund my class. If we expect teachers to stay around, we need to prepare them for success, not failure. With the hard work of Autumn Jewel and those that helped her, they were able to figure out that a fully stocked art classroom needs about $20 per student instead of the current $5.61 per student we're receiving now. Please help the future of arts in schools by approving the spending plan presented by Mrs. Marquez. Heather. Public comment from Sarah Renault, staff member. I was hired as a visual arts teacher in Eastside 13 years ago. When I started, I was given $350 to fund my classroom. A few years later, when the recession was easing, my budget was increased to $600 and then to the eventual $850, where it has stayed for about the last 8+ years. In 2018, a case of Elmer's art paste was $72.35. Today, the same case is $86.20. This is a 19% increase in just 4 years, yet my budget has remained the same since well before then. Similarly, a gallon of paint has increased in price by 20%, and a jar of printing ink has increased by 30% in cost since 2018. It is no wonder with each year I've had to rely on my own money more and more to help fund my own classroom. I have spent thousands of dollars in the last 4 years from my wallet because if I didn't, we would not be able to fill a school year with project-based learning lessons, which meet the full range of essential standards used in the visual arts. Please consider approving the increase of funds. Public comment from staff member Maria Furman. Please help by approving the spending plan presented by Mrs. Marquez. We, art teachers, spend our own money on lessons, materials every year due to insufficient budget. Public comment from Carla Villela, staff member. Greetings, esteemed board members. Please direct the funds towards the visual arts. Our students and teachers deserve and need more than the crumbs that they have gotten from the last decade or more. Thank you so much. Public comment from Lawrence Casas. As a teacher who comes from over 12 years of experience in the animation industry, I cannot begin to express the importance of the arts, not only to the creative outlet of our students, but the importance it brings to education with the use of visual problem solving and integrating knowledge from all different subject areas to create works of art that can be compelling and thought-provoking. That is why it disheartens me to see that the arts has to take the burden of not being able to provide an adequate art education due to budget. I find myself and colleagues spending our own money on our students. As an educator, we will always find ways to teach our students with what we are given, but we should not shortchange our students. The spending plan proposal written by Teresa Marquez is a step in the right direction to ensure all our students in the East Side have the same opportunities as other districts. Please approve spending plan. Public comment from staff member Becky Hopkins. Unfortunately, I am unable to attend this meeting. However, I want to make sure that I said something around this agenda item. Funding for the arts has been suffering for many years. In the 11 years I have called Eastside my home, I've had to use Donors Choose, Arts Ed Connect grants, and other sources, including my own pocket to fund my classes. The budget we receive is less than $5 per student. I appreciate flexing my creativity when I can, but I never thought that it would be pushed so much in the designing of lessons and creativity when I can't, stretching out budgets to accommodate use of cast-off materials like has been the case in my tenure here. While this proposal by Ms. Marquez is a wonderful start, I am looking forward to finalizing a meeting date with Superintendent Vandersee and Associate Superintendent Huntoon to discuss increasing departmental budgets in a more permanent way. We have been waiting since November 9th for this meeting to be finalized and hope that we will be hearing from you soon. Public comment from staff member Autumn Jewel. I'm urging you to vote in favor of approving the arts, music, and instructional materials grant presented by Mrs. Marquez. For too long, visual arts teachers have spent hundreds or more of their personal funds, spent countless of hours creating Donors Choose requests, and applying for grants every year to provide the much needed supplies of our students deserve. Inflation has hit hard, and art supplies have risen between 18 to 25%, yet our department budgets have not risen to cover those increases. We are given $171 per class to purchase supplies for 29 to 34 students. Many teachers have had to get creative with rotating what supplies they buy in which school year so they can take advantage of bulk discounts. Looking at what is on sale at the time or scouring free ads. When this fails, we turn to our own pocketbooks to make it work. Let's take the burden off teachers to fund their classrooms and allow us to spend that time and energy where it belongs in the classroom with the students. Public comment from staff member Thomas Brittendahl. First, I would like to start by thanking Associate Superintendent Marquez for her hard work collecting data from staff to allocate the funds to the various departments. Second, Section 134A of Assembly Bill 181 clearly allows districts to allocate funds to operational costs. At the same time, Section 134C states that local agencies are encouraged, but not required, to spend the funds proportionally on the 5 categories. As the current distribution is not proportional, I request that Associate Superintendent of Business Services break down the 9.5 million so the public can see the need to deviate from the grants encouraged distribution. Third, I would like to publicly encourage the Associate Superintendent of Business Services to respond to the repeated requests of ESTA leadership to schedule a meeting concerning ongoing increases to department budgets. That is the end of online public comment under 1401.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments here on the board? Go ahead, trustee Lake.
I have to say that this is the item that we received quite few emails, and also caught me by surprise that teacher have to put out, their own pocket to buy this material for our students. My question to you is, after this funding, and we allocate all of those funds here, if we, whatever the reason, we might not use all of the funding for which category that we already allocated, then we carry over to the next year, or we still have to use it, or we can, use it on unforeseen costs or unforeseen issue that teacher might probably come up to during the school year.
So first, the one-time allocation can be expended and or encumbered through 25-26. So we don't have to spend it all during the first year that we have it. We can extend it out and even encumber it up until 2025-26. I'm sure that all of the allocations for the specific subject areas are going to use up their money through that period. The only place where we can, look at, depending on, the budget process as was presented by Dr. Huntoon, is the operation cost, right? Which then would allow us to say, carry over some additional dollars, or even if needed, reallocate them into one of the other areas where there's a greater need.
Well, I have to say, I comment that the subject area coordinators as well as the business department to develop this plan is very, very comprehensive. I believe that, your group has been taking a lot of time to really see through and what the need of each department. But going back to the assessment, when the teacher look into those category, and during the time that, they probably would think maybe they need additional costs, for the material, because you might not see right now, but maybe down the road, maybe the new plan or new creations, project. So are we going to think about, are we allocate more, or we have to stick with this plan for now, but we're going to revise it as needed for the next year, or whatever you think that we can use it up to 2025 or 2026.
Yeah, so again, we can definitely look at it in particular in the areas around the operational costs, right? Because this is again, just an estimate based on the existing cost of retirement, benefits, salaries. And so we can definitely look at what's the actual amount and then revise it based on what surfaces out of the actuals that are expended as part of that operational cost. But again, right, in looking at the 3-year budget that Dr. Huntoon has presented, we look at the amount that is needed to be able to be fiscally solvent. And it, potentially could mean that it's been distributed across the 3 years to extend the imbalance that we have up into the out year, the 3rd year. But we can definitely look at what actually comes out of the operational cost. And if there is an opportunity to reallocate to the other areas, then we can definitely look at doing that.
So this plan will make it effective as the fiscal year 2023.
It's actually effective now. We received a portion of the funds this month, and then we're scheduled to receive the second portion, if I'm not mistaken, in the spring.
I see. So now our teachers should not spend their own money anymore, correct? Because now we have the funding to support all of this art and, classes, so, and music. So I'm really, really pleased to see this kind of funding go to our district, and as well as a very comprehensive plan that divided, for all of those subject coordinator. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
clarification.
Thank you, trustee Lay. Are there any other comments or questions?
I'm going to put a PS on my comments by saying that because Associate Superintendent Marquez pointed out that there were more people on the affirming side than those on the challenging side of comments. And as a policymaker, I never pay attention to that. If there's one person saying something different than 100 others, I really want to understand the essence of that one person and its validity or its applicability or what have you. So just so you know how this board member thinks about comments coming to the board.
Absolutely.
Well, I would like to make a comment just on how I'm processing all this. Just so I'm first of all, I want to acknowledge and appreciate the work that our Associate Superintendent Marquez has done with the subject area coordinators and their staffs. It sounds like a very thorough, comprehensive process that this board has been asking for. That it's what we look for. It's what we want what we want brought to us, right? So I appreciate that work. And I also recognize the importance of our fiscal solvency. And I know that we have a pretty significant ending balance. And I also see the handwriting on the wall in terms of, the news about layoffs coming to the Valley and things like that. And, that the one-time money that we've been awash in during COVID, I'm not convinced that's going to last. And I think this plan gives us the most flexibility going forward. One of the things that we've determined as a board is that when we're budgeting, the first year we've got a high amount, fair amount of certainty. Second year, not so much. Third year is, we don't know really, but we have to work with the numbers from the state. And so this plan, I think, really gives us the most flexibility in terms of being able to stave off. We're not talking about reduction in force for the first time in a long time, and that feels great. And let's give ourselves that flexibility right now by building in this plan. I think it's sound. And if we end up getting more money than we thought, we could revisit, and not only that, but we'll have Prop 28 money coming in, and that's just going to be more resources for this area. So I'm supportive of the plan. Thank you.
I too share my colleague perspective that the plan as presented provide a great deal of flexibility for the districts in the chance of unforeseen circumstances. And with the economy the way it is, there are going to be many unforeseen situations that we cannot possibly anticipate at this moment. But at the same time, I also share my other colleagues, Trustee Herrera statements that we are always concerned when teachers have to pay out of pockets. I know you have a formula, and it seemed to be a very valid formula because many including Becky Hobsons and others who have been supportive, and I see a number of emails supporting, but it would be very helpful if we have on the board have an understanding between the need of a particular teacher subjects area, right? If you are teachers in governments and history, you could have a different need from, say, someone who's teaching performing art and graphic design. We like to understanding whether in general, that particular area would need to have out of pocket. That is where I would be concerned where if you choose to be a graphic design teacher or performing art, now you suddenly have to put out a great deal more out of pocket. That seemed to be rather unfair. And I think as we're looking for our formula, it's just for the cost of the product or the material that they need to buy. So that a report back to the board will provide to us, we are meeting most, if not all, the need that's required by that particular subject area.
Thank you, Trustee Doe. Any other comments from my board colleagues? Great. Well, I thank you, Ms. Marquez, for the presentation. I also want to thank everyone for the emails, voicing your thoughts, your agreements, disagreements, everything in between. It matters, and it's important for us to have all of that in perspective as we make decisions here. I have a question on Prop 28 monies. I'm pretty sure we said it, but can we restate, when is that? When are those monies going to be coming to us next year? Is that?
Yes, it starts next year. Now,
Okay.
when we'll actually get the cash, we do not know that at this point,
Ay, vey. Okay.
but it won't be in this current fiscal year. That's for sure.
Okay, but we do have these monies to be working with for this upcoming year. Is that a correct statement?
Correct.
Great. Okay, a few things I just have to pull out from the presentation because I think they are so important. We go back to one of the first slides of equity. Where do we define equity? Not equitable communities are right there. I think that one's it, but it's not showing up. 6, I think. Yeah, equity at the core. We ground ourselves in why we do this work, equitable communities, but we also use this word a lot, equity, and we use it differently. So I think in order for us to have a conversation where we're aligned on what we're talking about, language matters. So alignment from the very beginning is super important so that we're having the same conversation that we're supposed to be having, right? So I want to thank you for grounding us in something so important that could seem very simple, because that is key, and that is why we do this work. And just really reiterating that equity doesn't mean the same, right? It's every student receives what he or she or they need to thrive, and that's different, but it's supporting all of our students. So that's one thing that I wanted to pull out from this presentation. I think overall, all of my colleagues have said this to some degree, just the engagement of the people on the ground, our teachers, right, our staff, who are having the live experiences of what is it that I need to be successful so I could therefore support our students to be successful, right? We've been in the classroom once upon a time, but things change literally by the day. And taking the time to do this on top of everything else, we don't take for granted. So just really want to thank you for a really thoughtful process of engaging our teachers and our staff. And you alluded to this, Assistant Superintendent Marquez, of with the continual alignment but talking about the importance of the arts, for example, when you think about the whole child, especially coming out of the pandemic or whatever this is, this moment in time, these experiences, access to these programs and resources are so key for kids to support them. And so I really want to double down on the importance of the arts and making sure that we have strong programs moving forward. And I think someone in a comment said it, this is a step in the right direction. It is definitely not comprehensive of what we need in education, but we're moving in the right direction. And this is also helpful for me as a trustee as I continue advocating different layers of government to make sure that we could paint a clearer picture of how big of a help this is and how it is, like someone said it in a comment, only a step in the right direction and how much work we need to do. And lastly, this was also mentioned a few times. I heard it pretty loud and clear, and I'm in alignment. The 9.5 million in operational costs, if we can get clearer on what that is, I understood at a high level. And I also appreciate the orientation that if there's an opportunity to put in more and, any of these other disciplines, then we can. So I'd like for us to get a little clearer on that. Transparency is important and want to make sure that we know what is going under those 9.5 million. And so with that,
Motion. is
do we,
in order.
a motion is in order.
Madam President, if I may, just one last
Yes,
comment.
sorry.
I do just want to say that I do not deny the importance of looking or hearing at multiple perspectives, right? I was asked to interpret those, and so that was my offering. I completely understand the need for looking at varying perspectives, which is why I went out to collect the data that I did, which is why I put out an educational services feedback specific to who I am as a leader. And so I need you to understand the lens that I bring is that of looking through equity, that of ensuring that we fulfill our promise of college and career readiness for all of our students through high quality instruction. And to do that, sometimes it takes having to make difficult decisions. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Teresa. And for what it's worth, from this perspective, that came out very loud and clear, and we are very grateful for that. Yes, okay, so
That is
motion
one
in
thing I
order.
appreciate so much about you, Associate Superintendent.
Your mic,
That is one thing I appreciate about you so much, Associate Superintendent Teresa Marquez, is that you really do listen and you really do learn. You really do make an extra effort to get all of the input that is needed from all those that are affected. I can always rely on that in what you do and what you bring forward. So thank you.
I was going to acknowledge, but he beat me to the punch. So thank you, colleague.
a motion is in order? Moved by trustee Lay, seconded by trustee Doe. Lee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Marquez and team for all your work.
Madam President, if I may, I would like to reiterate and thank the staff, Ed Services and Business Services, and working together to find an approach to this in which not everybody could get exactly what they wanted, but really, I want to thank everybody that participated in this process to do just that, to put up what it is that we need in order to deliver that outcome for student. And then for the team, and I have to thank the teams in each of those subject areas who recognize that resources are finite, that didn't just ask for everything that they wanted, but really looked for what was most necessary. And then even after that, for Ed Services to have to make tough decisions and for both the long-term health of our organization, but also the immediate needs and the short-term needs of staff and students on the ground. And I truly appreciate them at taking a lens at this that looked across our system into department areas that were allowed for with these dollars, but weren't necessarily specified, so that all teachers could get some examination of the resources that they need for their classroom. I thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Okay, we are now moving on to section 15.01, approved contracts for professional services over 25,000.
Move for approval.
A move by trustee Herrera, seconded by trustee Doe. How do you vote?
Aye.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? He passes unanimously. All right, 15.02. This is to approve charter school audit extension orders, and I believe we have a public comment for this. Great. Can you read public comment, Mary?
Online public comment from staff member Thomas Brittendahl. The comment is not in opposition to the motion, as the delay is a result of the district's lack of organization, not the chartering institutions. However, going forward before renewing charters, the district should know the following information. 1, is the charter school low performing? 2, is the charter school serving all student populations? 3, does the charter school owe the district money? 4, does the charter school have any fiscal issues? 5, does the charter school have any governance issues? 6, do all charter school teachers have a certificate of clearance? 7, do all charter school teachers have a valid credential for their assignment? AB 1505 gives local districts greater authority to reject charter renewal petitions when the answer to any of the previous questions is no. Prior to the renewal of any charter school, I request that the district share the previous information publicly at the appropriate board meeting. That is the end of public comment under item 1502.
Thank you for that. No other, there's no hand. right?
There's no online public comment. Just for the record, these are not extensions for renewal of a charter petition, but the audit, could you please speak to that, Dr. Hinton?
Absolutely. So there's a provision that allows both school districts as well as charter schools to request for an extension of their audit, the completion of their audit. In both requests that we received, copies are included in the board agenda item. There's a date certain that the audit will be completed.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Vice President Cortese, seconded by trustee Herrera. Lee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Is approved unanimously. Thank you. So there's nothing under section 16. 17.01, approve the budget adjustments to the technology projects. Ms. Huntoon?
Excuse me, that was 17.02 or
01.
01. Hold on, give me one moment. Oh, this was, so this is just a budget adjustment, I believe, yeah. This is just a budget adjustment and note that the budget adjustment is moving between programs. So if you look at this between the community wireless versus there was just an adjustment between those two programs so that there's a need in the learning devices as opposed to the other two projects that are out there. Any other questions?
Now we have a motion on the floor, moved by
I'll
trustee
second.
Herrera, seconded by Vice President Cortese. All in favor? Oh, wait. Sorry, I'm pausing myself. I'm learning, Lee. I will get this right. Lee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Colleagues, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. Great. 1702, approved bond capital projects contracts over $50,000.
Standard, I'll move to approve.
So moved by Vice President Cortese, seconded by trustee Doe. Lee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Colleagues, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? It's approved unanimously. So now we are on to 1703, approved plan increment 2 and amendment 1 with Robert A. Botham Construction for the Yerba Buena Ball Field Improvements Project. Ms. Huntoon?
For approval.
I have a comment, though. Superintendent, can Can you just give us an overview of how this came to be and that this is not a special allocation? This is, right, this is,
Well, this original allocation came back, I'd have to look back for the original date of approval when when the fields at Yerba Buena were analyzed about the amount of space that's actually there and the overlapping of fields and their inability to maintain those fields having natural grass. And so I'd have to look back to the original time where the district or the board then took action to allocate the funds so that this work could get specifically done for this school, given its need and the impact of not having a grass surface.
thank you.
Okay, so I believe we have a motion on the floor. Is that
Yeah, motion. And second.
by trustee Herrera and then seconded by trustee Lay? Lee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Okay, colleagues, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. Okay, so now we are moving on to consent calendar.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second,
Okay, so moved by trustee Cortezi, seconded by trustee Herrera. I think it was at the same time. Lee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Colleagues, all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Passes unanimously. Okay, so now we are on to section 23, written reports recommendations. So 23.01. Let's see, I don't think there's anything that needs to, these are reports that are received into the public record. No action is taken by the board. There's nothing that needs to be approved there, right? 2301?
correct. It's an opportunity for the board to request it for it to be brought back for discussion. But if there is no such request, there's no action.
Is there such request? No. Okay, great. 2302, received quarterly report on the County of Santa Clara Treasury Investment Portfolio as of September 30th, 2022. Yeah, are there any questions or?
There's not discussion, it's just.
Okay, and then 23.03, received Santa Clara County Office of Education 22-23 adopted budget approval letter. Okay. All right, section number 2401, opportunity for Board of Trustees to request items on future agenda. So are there any requests?
Yes.
All right,
For the next agenda, I would like an item to allow the board to discuss instituting a new protocol that allows the board to maintain timely awareness of unmet and unfunded program needs in the district in two parts. First part would be a semi-annual survey of our staff regarding unmet needs and wants, essentially. And the second part would be a quarterly report to the board on out-of-pocket expenditures by staff during that quarter, for the board to really maintain a keen awareness of this whole dimension of how our district operates. So we'll discuss it. I'll work with the administration in bringing that into an appropriate form.
thank you for that. Any other requests?
Should the request that trustee Herrera move forward, I love to see that breakdown to different departments, simply because there are different needs based on the different subject that our teachers would be carrying that out.
So to me, that's different than what I'm talking about, because that's a budgeting process, and usually our managers work with our department chairs and so on. Here, in what I'm looking for is for the ground level staff, who may or may not be being heard, may or may not be being supported, or what have you, and for the board to have an awareness of the folks closest to the delivery point in what's coming out of their pocket and or in what area is their need in their view. In a way, it's a parallel process, but the reason why I'm going to want to request for the board to consider this is because over time, it's just become obvious to me that given all of our processes, it keeps falling through the system's, protocols. And the board isn't even aware until a moment arises, like with this issue, that staff is going out of pocket for things that they really should not be having to go out of pocket for. It's a different level. I'll explain it more when I bring my item forward, but it is different than department perspectives and budget requests and that kind of a thing.
I'm open to that discussions. Right.
And we hear you and we will work with you to figure out what the outcome we're looking for and the methodology for doing so. In a manner that also allows us to keep an eye on our other responsibilities as a district.
Thank you. Any other requests for future agenda items?
I also like to request a study sessions on the discussion regarding the Vietnamese textbooks conversation, if that's possible. And that could be done whether by individual board members, with staff, or by more than one. That depend on what's the administration more comfortable and appropriate.
I think what we can do is have an initial meeting to raise up what those issues are, see what the best methodology to inform ourselves on those issues as to what really is pertinent, what is happening on the ground, what work is being made, as this district has long made a priority of making sure that our students have the necessary materials in Vietnamese, early recognized that those materials need to be updated. Also recognize that those materials have to be done in a manner that is aligned with standards and what we know about language development, and make sure that it's in tune to the cultural specifics of our reality and of Vietnamese American language, and make sure that our textbooks are moving in that direction. So yes, we can meet to see if in fact we are marching towards where we want to be, as we have already established and have already begun very good work toward that end.
So I want to offer the perspective that, yes, administration needs to have a full opportunity to engage the issue and move towards remedies and appropriate responses. And there may come a point where it might be helpful for two members of the board to engage directly with the administration on what they've been learning and how to resolve this. And if there's anything that remains unresolved or there's serious disagreement on, that's the occasion for a board study session if we reach that point.
I'm comfortable with that. That's a good plan.
Great. All right, so we got a plan. Any other future agenda items before we move on to the next item? Hearing none, seeing none, we are going to item number 25. We are here already, folks. All right, so this is any comments from the board. So I will start to my furthest left, and then we'll go over here, and then I will end. So Trustee Lay, any comments?
Yes, I want to say thank you to Principal at Independence, Beyond Bird, and also those activity director, Bill Logan, our teacher, Gina Ingelfinger, STEM class, Jack Ariel, Vietnamese teacher, San Lu. Also, congratulations to Justin Lay on winning the Amazon gift card for Christmas competition. I continue to visit school, and we join few sites to provide gift card for McKinney Vento. I know, thank you, Superintendent Van der Zee, as well as all the administrator that been working to have the site, and it was a schedule. So tomorrow, I believe that I sign up to visit YB, and if we have a chance to provide the gift card to the McKinney Vento student from 5 to 7, but I will continue to work and visit the site, and I'm happy, that we have accomplished our goals for McKinney Vento, and I really appreciate that we push our goal to up to now that we achieved up to 75,000, and we can provide more than $75 gift cards to each of our student. That's amazing. Really, it's a lot of works. And I know that with fundraising and everything, that the administrator has done such a good job. And I really commend Superintendent Glenn Van Der Zee, who took the time and really take this project to the next level. I really commend you and all staff and also all stakeholder like ESTA and all of the stakeholder, CSEA, everyone that been contributed to bring a joy for our student. That's something that's really dear to my heart. And I really want to say that, thank you, everyone. Happy holidays. I'm really glad that our board will continue to have 4 more years. We'll see what destiny after next 4 years. But I'm really happy that we have very good and functional board, and we continue to support our student and our stakeholder. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Trustee Doe?
First of all, I'd like to thank our superintendent, Van Der Zee, for all his hard work to raise money for McKinley-Vento. We were at our conference at CSB in San Diego, and he spent his time raising money for McKinley-Vento. So thank you very much. And I know many other staff also have been participate, so I'd like to thank them for doing so. Kudos to our new CBO presentation. That was very nice. I believe this is your first big presentation, so thank you for providing such great clarity. Thank you to Associate Superintendent Torres Macias for your hard work and for your staff, as well as all those who have emailed and comment on the subject. Thank you. Congratulations to my 3 colleagues for returning. And congratulate to Abhinav Gorapati for winning the Entrepreneurship Challenge, 2nd place, and Justin Lay. Thank you for everyone, and have a great night.
Trustee Herrera?
I just want to express my appreciation to this board. I just have such great respect, and I esteem each of you, and I have great affection for you. And I just am so grateful that I get to work with all of you and all of us as colleagues and board members and, servant leaders in this district. And it just gives me joy. So yay, I'm really looking forward to working with our new board leadership. Thank you.
Yeah. Vice President Cortese. I like the sound of that.
How about President Chavez? That sounds nice
Yeah,
too. Yeah, ditto on that. I have loved being part of this board. I think we have a great board. I look around and a lot of elected bodies don't have the respect and affinity for each other that we do. And I think that is a real blessing. And I'm so glad that we get to continue. Congratulations to, I will reiterate to the 3 of you who are back, and looking forward to serving with you, President Chavez, this year. I also want to acknowledge and commend our Student Governing Board leadership with our chair, Lee Henny. I've been participated in a couple of your past meetings that have been just very robust and, digging into real issues. And it's impressive. We are really blessed to have just a strong group of young leaders, sharing what their school experience is from their perspective, which is so critical for us, right? So thank you for your leadership, Lee, and I'm looking forward to continuing to serve with Board Member Lay to support the student government.
All right. So for me, I went to go visit Piedmont Hills a little under a month ago alongside one of our council members, which is really great. So really want to thank Principal Davis again for hosting us. It's really great to be able to show them all the great things that we're doing at our schools and also advocate and see where there's opportunity where maybe the city can help us out and work with us, as we can't do it alone. So it was great. So thank you, Principal Davis and everybody in the school who made that visit possible. Winter break is right around the corner, y'all. Please, please, please make sure to take some time to rest and rejuvenate. It feels like we've been going 1,000,001 miles a minute. And just such deep gratitude for every single person in our Eastside system that does this great work day in and day out. It doesn't go unnoticed or underappreciated. So thank you very, very much. And I'll end with, I am really excited to be in this new role as board president. I'm here to listen and support everyone and moving the great work forward. I'm just the conduit and looking forward to a great year of continue moving the work forward. And that's it for me. And I think the next person up is Lee. Lee, do you have any comments?
Just to reiterate kind of what Patty was saying, really excited to work with board member Lay for the next year and also to continue working with Patty. I think a lot of members of SGB have really enjoyed working with Patty in the past years. A lot of them have said that she really advocates for us. And I hope that we will continue to work with both of you to further our goals in SGB.
Madam President, I'd like to make a comment to our student board representative, and that is that a student has reached out to the board now twice, asking to meet with the board regarding mental health issues. And I think it's appropriate for you as a student board representative, to be his first point of contact in working with and through the board. So his name is Kelvin Kaneshiro, and I would like to forward that to you and have you follow up and communicate with him and see how best to bring his concerns, if appropriate, into a board process.
Well, we'll make sure to forward, but I don't think we're supposed to name any names. So we'll just.
So what I'll
set
ask
up.
is that if you could afford us that name so we could see what the nature of the concern is, and we will forward it to SGB as appropriate.
Great.
Board President, I'd like to make one message that I really want to say thank you to our Secretary, Mary Gillen, has been taking good
Yeah.
care of us for the San Diego trip and all of those detail of the certificate. And I'm really looking forward to work with Lee for the next year that we can work together, follow Board Vice President Patty Cortese, and we continue to like your support. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. And now Superintendent Vanderzee.
Yeah, there are far too many Vanderzees mentioned and when we were talking about McKinney-Vento. And I want to just really thank all of you who outreach to people in our community looking for donations. I want to thank Ed Services and Student Services for putting all that work together, serving people at the sites and our PCISs who are finding our families and what their needs are so we can directly give them that. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it's been more and more individualized every year, and it's very often goes unseen. It is a powerful thing to say that we provided gift cards to over 895 unhoused students of $75 or more on top of other gifts, but that doesn't speak to all the underlying work that had happened.
Yep.
The other thing, the underlying will to say, in seeing that new number, that last year was 360 and is now 895, that we weren't going to back away from the support that our families and our unhoused students need. And that will comes from our staff at sites, comes from leadership at sites, and it definitely comes from the leadership here. And I just want to say, it's not in the job description. It's work they do on top of all the work that's been presented here, on top of all the time that's been taken with a new grant or new opportunities to go out and research and do that hard work of the short-term, midterm, and long-term health of our district. And we've got a crew here that's willing to do that work and stand for long-term health and continue to listen, to deny no one's opinion, to process it, to arrive at right decisions. I just want to thank this team for doing that. With that said, I also wanted to say to our students, finals are coming, please study in those, and this semester with that C or higher. We want to make sure that you're qualifying for you're going to hear it, the Spartan East Side Promise in future years. Our freshmen, sophomore, juniors, our current seniors, keep those grades above the C so you can continue to qualify. Staff, like to say thank you very much. Have a rest, but we have the rest of this week and next week before we do that, but it will be a break well deserved. And again, thanks to everybody who put in for McKinney-Vento. Thanks for everybody that makes the tough decisions and that puts in the hard thinking every day to move us forward. And at some point, we'll have rest. But till then, let's just keep going.
Thank you, Superintendent Vanderzee. All right, now, board meeting evaluation. So what do we think? And I'm also curious, Lee, to hear your perspective too. I don't think I've ever heard your thoughts on it. What do you think how the board meeting went?
There's only one correct answer.
Yeah, it went great.
That's not true. You speak your truth.
I mean, I think it went the same as all of the other ones. I'm not sure what the metric is to evaluate that.
We've established a norm, it sounds like.
There
Okay.
you go. Thank you. And any other comments on that, colleagues?
I think we're off to a good start. I think we're
there's-
off to a good start.
There was a lot to cover, but it's before 10. I think we were pretty focused and I thought it was, I appreciated the way we parsed through the issue around the budget item. So that felt good to me. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so now,
Madam President, you're already like an old pro handling this meeting, so.
thank you. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. Almost there. Is there any report from legal counsel needing to
Yeah.
report on?
Yes, there is, Madam President.
Great. You're
Closed session item 2.02 expulsions. Case number 22-23-003, motion by member Cortese, second by member Lay. The board unanimously approved that expulsion. Case number 22-23-004, motion by member Doe, second by member Cortese. The board unanimously approved the expulsion in that matter. Also, closed session item 2.05, motion by member Cortese, motion by member Chavez, second by member Cortese. The board unanimously approved the final notice of dismissal and statement of charges for one classified employee effective today, December 13th, 2022. That was unanimously approved. There are no further actions to report.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And it is 9:50. Meeting is adjourned.